And so I heard his name. Is there anything here for Mr. Lee H. Oswald, is the way you said it. So I knew his name right away. And boy, that set off a bell in my head because he was big news in the newspapers, you know. People say how evil you are because you were married, new married, and here you start having an affair with Lee Oswald. Well, I was married one day when my husband abandoned me. He said, I'm not going to tell you where I'm going because you wouldn't have married me if I told you I'm going to be gone most of the summer. He said, bye-bye, I'm not going to tell you where I am. He took off.
Wow.
But that night, where I lived was raided by the police. By the way, we've gone to the house where the raid occurred. I went with researchers. I always had to have witnesses. And told them what happened long, long ago. It turned out Lee Oswald had put me in a house of ill repute. Now, he'd been in New Orleans for 10 years. He thought it was a nice boarding house, but it had changed, okay? And actually went to the owner. By the way, very fancy place. I have a picture of it. We don't have time for everything, but
right.
It's very fancy. It's in my book.
Okay, we're jumping ahead to the affair.
Wait, all right, yes, but I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
I want you to read this postcard.
Okay.
Robert Baker, my husband.
Mm-hmm. For a day.
All right. Now, I've been married a month to him. Now, notice on this, it says it is from New Orleans. Please turn the picture over so you can see the other side and you can show that to everybody.
Okay. Greetings from New Orleans.
Right. Okay. Now, where am I living? I'm living in New Orleans.
Right.
He's dropping me a postcard as he's coming through New Orleans. He doesn't have time to visit me. That's my new husband. Go ahead and read it.
But he sends you a postcard from New Orleans.
Yeah.
Hi there. Just stopped in New Orleans and thought I'd drop a line.
This is my new husband.
Boy, is the weathering miserable here. I'll be back through in a couple of days. Eat enough. Take care of yourself because I'm loving you. Bob.
Yeah.
Bob Baker.
Yeah. How would you like to get a postcard from your new husband that you don't know where he is or what he's doing? But he'll be through in a couple of days of wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, okay?
Wow.
Now, anybody think that I get raided, I have nobody to help me.
What is this guy doing? What is his career?
Well, he's a scientist. His IQ was so high it was classified.
His IQ was so high it was classified.
186.
Who does he work for?
Guess. But anyway, he ended up as being one of the top scientists at that time he was still getting all his credentials.
Did he tell you this or did you learn this later?
Oh, no, I knew it.
Okay.
I couldn't find anybody compatible with. You have to understand.
And you married him when you were how old again?
Well, I was 19.
You were still 19 and you married this dude you met in New Orleans who happened to be the highest IQ.
Didn't meet him in New Orleans. I met him at University of Florida, and he was, because I was taking high math classes and all that's been wiped out, okay?
Okay.
And met him in one of the classes that summer. And I had plenty of boyfriends. I was very athletic as well and had earned 4 athletic medals at University of Florida.
Okay.
And all that. And later he would tell one of my sons, I married her for her legs. So anyway.
You had good legs, huh?
Yeah, they still are good. I could show you. It's amazing.
Well, let's keep the podcast.
Yeah, let's try to.
We don't want to make this podcast X-rated.
I'm just trying to say that I was very liberal-minded. I was a good girl. I didn't run around. In fact, I had a lot of boyfriends. University of Florida had just gotten to where they were co-ed just 10 years earlier before there was and it's engineering and science. So I'm sorry, most of the girls there looked like they had horse faces, you know.
Really?
Well, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Right. You were one of the hot ones.
Yeah, and so I had all these boyfriends. But I didn't want to ruin my reputation. I told each of those boys, I've got a problem, please. You know, look at these other guys. Please protect me from these other guys. I told every one of them that. So I had a good reputation, and I earned it. But he was different. He ended up seducing me because he could beat me in chess.
He could beat you in chess?
Yeah.
Wow. And he told you he was a high-level scientist with a freaking 200 IQ working for the CIA. I'm going to guess.
Well, I'll put it this way. Just like me, he was being handled, and, we didn't. Now, all they were interested in was for mathematics. You know. he would end up being in one of the top forever. Exxon made probably billions because of him.
Wow.
If I told you all the stuff he invented, you still see some of the stuff online. All right,
Okay.
anyway, he took off, and if he's interested in something that was more important than I was, that's just the way it was.
Okay.
So he abandoned me. I had nobody. I had this phone number. Lee Oswald met me at the post office when I was looking for letters from him. He's supposed to write every day. Is he going to come and marry me? Maybe. Like Lee said, love unto the death. You know?
So to walk me through the moment you first met Lee Harvey Oswald.
All right, I'm at the post office. By the way, I didn't have any money because I came 2 weeks early. My grant, I didn't have it, stipend or anything. So I actually got a job flipping burgers, so to speak, because this waitress, she was stopping the job out there and got a raise to where she could work in town. This is 45 minutes. Now, who goes and gets on a bus, goes 45 minutes out to work just 2 hours, just enough to pay for my room, and come back 45. Lee Oswald thought I was out there. Bobby Kennedy was at the Royal Castle where I was working. I had sent monitors there because Carlos Marcello, the Godfather, was right next door, just a few blocks down. And this was open 24 hours. Lee thought, because I was only going out there in the morning for 2 hours and back, this crazy, for what, for $2? I mean, who does that? Thought I was a courier. All this started because when he was sent to meet me, they don't give you all the information. It's just need to know. All he knew about me is I was a cancer researcher that was supposed to work with Dr. Mary Sherman. And David Ferry told him to go and meet me. That's all he knew.
Oh, he was instructed to go meet you.
Yes, but I didn't know that at the time. They want to stop me running around with these hookers and things, that I was doing without realizing I'd never. I mean, I had my first drink, and everything.
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, I'm angry because there's no letter. The man said he was going to write me every day, and he was going to tell her he's going to come marry me. Well, I don't need him. I mean, if you know I'm very big deal.
Look at these legs. You think I need this nerd?
Okay, it's sort of like that. Yeah, I got pawed over like crazy in New Orleans. Yeah, and so I sure did want that kind of life. Excuse me. I can't see very well.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
Lower it for you a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so here I am, and I turn around. There's a nice-looking guy behind me, dressed, real decent. Kind of cute. I had been carrying around a rolled up newspaper that had code on it because this Robert Baker didn't want his family to know that he was dating me because they were anti-Catholic and they thought I was Catholic. Now I had given up on Catholicism. I had become an atheist because when I was at St. Francis University, my father came up there and kidnapped me to get me out of the convent. And so it was horrible. And since God didn't want me, I believed there was no God. I just. Big deal. I offer my life to God, and what happened? I didn't realize how God was going to use me. So anyway, I'm angry, and there's no letter from this man. He says, well, I might come marry you. We want birth control pills. I thought I was in love. I was in love with sex. I was introduced to sex by this complete, mechanically accurate man. All right.
Mechanically accurate.
Yeah. In other words, he knew how to please, but it doesn't mean he loved. There's a difference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know the difference, of course, because that was the only person I ever knew. And I say he seduced me. He ran away. Actually left. Said, if you won't, be a grown-up in this modern age, forget you, And a month later, he came back, and all my friends and everything, I ran into his arms. I said, you win, So that's the way it was. And then, so we're going to get married. Well, we did. He said, we got to hurry and get married. I thought it was because he loved me. Actually did. He never said, I love you, by the way. So we go to Mobile, Alabama. Then I found out he did that in a hurry because he's got to get on a quarter boat and do scientific research for this group. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he's gone. And here comes the police raid. I was thrown out in the middle of the street. All right. Only number I had was his phone number that came from Lee Oswald. Now back to the post office. He was sent there. I finally figured it out. It took me years to realize it was on purpose. But anyway, I have this newspaper with a code on it so that Robert knew I arrived in New Orleans without making a phone call that his parents would intercept and say, "Are you still doing stuff with that Catholic girl?"
Mm-hmm.
And I dropped the newspaper. He picks it up. It's got code on it. Jario de Jario. I mean, it looks weird.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to flirt with this guy. I know Russian. Who knows Russian? I'll say something. He'll say, "What did you say?" So, I'm going to do that. So I go, he picks it up and hands it to me. I go, "Karasha tovarish," like that. I thought he'd say, and he answered me in Russian. What? He said, "It's not wise to speak Russian in New Orleans."
What year was this again?
This is 1963. This is
April, 63?
April 26th, 1963. That's when I met him.
Oh my God. He
He's
was just
right
back from Moscow, right?
He's only been back less than a year.
Wow.
And but wait a minute. I knew these spies. I told you about one, Tony Lopez Fresqueta, I've dated. His father was the finance minister of Cuba for Fidel Castro.
Right.
And he was secretly CIA. I learned so much stuff from Tony, you wouldn't believe. Then I knew all this stuff from Knut Mikkelsen, who was a CIA guy who taught me all kinds of tradecraft. He thought it was funny. I learned how to do invisible ink, all kinds of. Lee Oswald thought I was trained by the CIA, but it was by people who liked me. I mean, who were involved. And I didn't know.
Wow.
So
when you met him,
he thought I was CIA just like him. He had only given the information to intercept me and make sure I got to meet Judyth Vary because Mary Sherman would be there and we were supposed to meet.
So what was it like when you guys first met? You bumped into each other. He dropped his newspaper. You talked to him in Russian. Then what? What did he ask you? What did he say to you?
Well, it's like this. I said that to him. He said, "It's not wise to speak Russian in New Orleans."
Right.
He said, "Can you wait a minute?" And then he asked for stuff for him.
Mm-hmm.
He had to pretend to. And so I heard his name. "Is there anything here for Mr. Lee H. Oswald?" is the way he said it. So I knew his name right away. And boy, that set off a bell in my head because he was big news in the news. And I remember stuff I read. He was big news in the newspapers, way back. And his picture there.
From what again?
Well, he was a so-called defector.
Yes.
And he was front page news. Everything had to do with.
This was all over the news before all this.
Oh my gosh, yes. And here he's walking around a free man. No way. I knew too much. And so, you know what I said in the right way? When he said, he confirmed that he had been in the USSR for 30 months and he'd come back with a wife and child. I said, "You are a hero. You are a shining hero." He was shocked. I knew enough to know what kind of man he really was. He wasn't ready for that, Mm-hmm. All he knew is I was some kind of asset he's got to make sure and protect till they get back. That's all he knew. When I say he was a hero, he dropped his guard. He wasn't ready for that. He was so used to, and he had gone through just like Knut Mikkelsen. His family does not have anything to do with him or anything. They think he's horrible. When he's not, he's one of ours. And to have someone he could talk to, this is how it started. We hit it off right away. Because he thought I was in as deep as he was. It's only because I knew all these words and terms. I knew the acronyms and everything. It's because of the people I associated by that time for 2 years with anti-Castro patriots. I knew so many things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So by the time he and Judyth Vary realized that Judyth Vary had asked for an assistant to help. Because it turned out he had to make lots of plane flights to Miami, try and get his pilot's license back. Mm-hmm. Long story. But so they asked for an assistant, and both of them thought they said a female instead of a male because he was homosexual, and they thought they didn't want anybody to seduce. I have the witness who was supposed to be there, Michael Costanianto. Okay, very difficult name. Anyway, he's the one that did the Promise program. He was very young like myself. In fact, he was like 50. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so they were expecting someone young, and they thought, well, they sent a girl because they don't want to have a guy because Vary has been accused of seducing young kids, and that wasn't true. They were teenagers, but,
young boys.
So they thought they sent me instead, and that was not true. It was Michael was supposed to go, and we have his statement and everything. Okay. But I'm there. Because Michael stayed with Guy Bannister for a while, bugging his stuff, so he didn't get there in time. Mm-hmm. So then I was in there, so Michael went did something else. All right, so now I'm with Lee, and Lee says, look, we got to get you out of the YWCA. You don't want to be with the strippers. And that's when he put me in this place. He called ahead of time, and he thought, wait, where he shouldn't have done it. He said, I've got a very pretty girl here, and she's a really nice girl. Where's the best place I can put her? And when they named the place, he knew it was a good place, but no, it had changed. The guy on the other end thought he meant he was trying to put somebody in who was a high-class prostitute. Poorly. He didn't mean that at all. It's just the way he worded it.
Yeah.
It came out that way. Now I hate him. I'm out on the sidewalk, been kicked out, I hate him. I hate Robert Baker. I hate Dalton Auckner, where all the men in my life have ruined. My father got me out of the convent. I am totally anti-human being male. Kind of thing. And Lee has to deal with me. He feels very bad about what happened, tries to make up for it, and finally moves me into this lady's house. And I have the front room, front apartment, and she is adorable. She knew Lee from the time he was a little kid, and went to Sunday school classes, and she taught arts and crafts and all this kind of thing. And he gave her a puppy. Anyway, to make a long story short, her name was Susie Hanover. She had a little girl that stayed that summer with her great-granddaughter, Claudia, who saw Lee there with me at that apartment so often, like a couple of years ago, and she went on, she's on film and tape and everything. Mm-hmm. She saw Lee with me at my apartment so much, she thought he lived there. So I have lots of, she's only one of many witnesses I have. All of that is ignored completely. Now, why?
Is she still around?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Okay.
I sent you a picture of her. I've sent you a picture of various witnesses I've got.
Okay. Yeah. One of the questions, a lot of your detractors bring up is like, you have no hard proof you ever met Lee. Because there's no photos, right? But we're also talking about the 60s, the early 60s.
Yeah, tell me how many people carrying cameras around.
Right.
But also, Lee Oswald is pretending to be pro-Castro. He is protecting this group that's trying to create a biological weapon to kill Castro.